25-year marriage ended as my wife served me divorce papers, claiming a rich man instead. After inheriting millions, she returned, requesting half, leaving me motionless with shock. "Gary," she asked, "are you even listening? You seem distant." "Sorry, I was momentarily distracted." "You missed my explanation. The terms are simple, nothing to debate. I don't ask for anything." "Understood?" "Absolutely nothing. The house, cars, and bank account all yours. Sign, and it's over in 3 months." Speechless, Marcy and I were high school sweethearts, raising our twin daughters who attended Columbia University. We lived comfortably with two Volvos. Marcy had her own credit cards and a phone. I never denied her anything, nor did I cheat or mistreat her in any way. Marcy appeared content and never voiced any dissatisfaction. Her decision to divorce took me by surprise. Perhaps my attention was lacking. "I grasped the concept of divorce, Marcy, but could you at least clarify why?" "It might be too late for changes, but I want to comprehend your reasons." Marcy sank into a kitchen chair, evidently reluctant to discuss it. She hoped I'd merely sign the papers and let her depart. "Could you briefly respond, Marcy? What did I do incorrectly?" "You didn't do anything wrong, Gary. You were an ideal husband. Sometimes I yearned for mistakes from you, so I'd have a reason to leave, but you never made them. You excelled in raising the children and helping them through college. You always provided me with everything I requested, even when I was difficult. You secured us a beautiful house. My family appreciates you. Never doubt that you did anything wrong because you didn't." She appeared to be around 45 years old. She had an attractive complexion, and her light brown hair gleamed beautifully under the sunshine. Regular jogging kept her body fit and tanned. During the week, she preferred casual attire, yet could exude glamour when desired. Marcy thought she was equally perfect to me, or so she insisted. I struggled to understand the underlying dynamics. "I'm perplexed, but this doesn't seem right. There must be a reason for it." "Gary, I am attempting to approach this situation in a manner that won't hurt your feelings or negatively reflect on me. Let's draw a line here. No, Gary, I have found someone else. He is a successful real estate developer who owns an elegant apartment overlooking the river and a sleek black Mercedes. He is handsome, wealthy, and deeply in love with me. You remain a grocery store clerk. The discrepancy between our lives has always been, and still is, apparent. You've consistently fulfilled your responsibilities by earning enough to maintain our family comfortably, and for that, I'm grateful. However, you'll forever be identified as a clerk in my eyes. I had envisioned something greater, something beyond that. I didn't anticipate change from you, given your contentment with your work and the absence of any pursuit for more. It was disheartening. Despite my role as the grocery department manager, it seems that wasn't enough to alter your perception. Now, regarding Clayton Manning, the president of Keystone Development Company, how long have you known him? Approximately 6 months. Did we engage in a romantic relationship? Yes, we were married, still are if I'm being precise. Were we trying to keep it secret? Initially, yes, but since you've brought it up, I suppose the cat is out of the bag now. I was untrue to you, I strayed. Now, are you content with this truth? After a brief pause, I retrieved the divorce documents, signing and initialing them, before pushing them across the table towards me. Perhaps he's more fitting for you. My apologies for any letdown. Rising from my seat, I departed the room as Marcy called out, "No, that's not the reason. He wasn't superior to you, merely distinct. Don't you dare believe it, Gary. Don't you dare." By then, I had already exited. So engrossed in my work and pastimes, I failed to notice Marcy gradually relocating her possessions from our shared home. Upon receiving the divorce papers, she had already transferred most of her apparel and personal items to Clayton's apartment. Considerately, she left behind all the wedding and family photos for me to appreciate during her absence. Upon returning home, I found no trace of Marcy. Her car remained parked in the driveway, suggesting she no longer required it. On the kitchen table, she placed a power of attorney for selling the house and car. I spent the remainder of the night disposing of the refrigerator's beer. By then, it became clear that the act was finalized, there was no going back, and I had no desire to do so. Marcy was departing permanently. The following morning, I contacted work for a 3-month unutilized leave. They had been urging me to take some time off, making it hassle-free. With sufficient vacation and sick days, I made a prompt call to the girls at school, informing them briefly of our separation, but declined to share further details. They wished to contact Marcy, but I no longer had her new contact number. I had 3 months to reorganize myself and decide on my next move. I disconnected my landline, changed my cell phone number, and canceled the one Marcy used. The Volvo dealership provided me with the car's low market value as per Marcy's records. An old high school acquaintance, Terry, now a real estate agent, was of assistance to me in selling the house. He consented to the house sale privately at a reduced price and with a swift closing. To ensure safety, I canceled all my credit cards and established fresh bank accounts. I liquidated my life insurance policies. It was necessary to organize matters. I scrutinized the house, collating everything that might be my wife's property. There were enough items to fill 3 trash bags. I boxed up the daughter's personal effects and placed them in a closet near the house. I invested 3 hours sifting through family photos. I segregated all the daughter's images into a box for them. All of Marcy's images ended up in the waste bin. Despite the folly, I didn't care. The primary challenge I encountered was a lack of purpose. I was uncertain about my future beyond 3 months. Would I remain here or depart? Would I continue working or seek something new? I had 2 pastimes. I mostly accumulated Indian-themed coins as they were simple to amass and abundant. I traded items on eBay, finding joy in the process. Geocaching was another interest, offering an incentive for outdoor exploration and physical activity. Unfortunately, Marcy disliked it due to concerns about ticks, poison ivy, and walking. I pondered over the prospect of earning a living through these activities. When not engrossed in hobbies, I delved into the Wall Street Journal. Cindy and Sandy gifted me a subscription annually for Christmas. Despite my lack of interest in stocks and bonds, I consumed everything related to farm commodities. My knowledge on sugar, wheat, and corn surpassed that of many market analysts. It was merely a pastime, as I didn't invest any money into it. I meticulously gathered all information regarding Keystone Development and Clayton Manning. Terry Davis managed to uncover more details about Clayton and his new project than I could ever manage. He delved deep with a banking acquaintance of his locally. I eagerly anticipated the results of his findings. For several weeks, Marcy's absence was evident, with no contact from her or her daughters. Every week, the girls phoned, but their mother remained silent. Despite this, I perceived them as allies, given Marcy's status as their mother. However, I assumed they needed to offer some support in her absence. I organized a few garage sales and discarded numerous items. The house still looked presentable for prospective buyers, with sufficient furniture remaining inside. A photograph of Marcy and Clayton surfaced in the society section of the Sunday paper, showcasing them at a political rally with local VIPs, sipping wine. Over the next couple of weeks, Terry extended a below-market offer on the house. This was significantly lower than the appraisal, but his proposed 60-day closing date appealed to me. He held some intriguing secrets about Clayton and sought to discuss them. We scheduled a lunch meeting. I felt it was time for a change of scenery and a break from my routine. Hayes Mountain, a popular location for hiking and geocaching, presented the perfect opportunity. Regrettably, I had already discovered all the geocaches in that area, yet 3 landmarks remained atop the mountain. These are markers utilized by surveyors and real estate agents for determining property boundaries, typically consisting of metal rods embedded in concrete. For dedicated geocachers, finding these landmarks is an additional game. On this occasion, I resolved to locate all 3 landmarks on the mountain, necessitating a metal detector alongside my GPS due to the challenge of spotting a piece of rebar in the woods. The GPS would assist me in getting close to the location. Hayes Mountain was a large expanse, approximately 2,000 acres, and the Madison Land Trust owned most of it. They were consistently striving to expand it, but with subdivisions and industrial parks encroaching on open space, they relied on donations to sustain their efforts. Near the parking lot of the trust, there was an orchard and farmhouse for sale, marked by a large sign. Upon parking, I walked towards the fence by the orchard, peering curiously at the prospective loss. A tinge of melancholy washed over me, contemplating the possibility that this picturesque property might be razed for construction. A voice echoed from behind, "Are you considering purchasing it or simply appreciating the scenery?" I turned to find an elderly man in overalls and a John Deere hat approaching. Laughing, I responded, "If I had $1 million, I'd buy it instantly." He returned my grin. "Do you anticipate any challenges when selling it?" he asked. "I have some interested parties," I replied, "but I'm holding out as long as possible." Intrigued, I questioned, "Why the hesitation?" I was secretly hoping the land trust would acquire it, but they lack funds. They wish to preserve the fruit trees, yet developers intend to demolish everything. "I believe it could be a valuable addition to this place," I suggested. "The trust struggles against large corporations. Yet, I have presented them an attractive proposition. I'm prepared to sell it for $600,000, although its price is $1 million. However, they seem unable to gather the funds in due time. If not, then that real estate agent will seize it," he growled in annoyance. "He pesters me each week." "Is an option a guaranteed sale?" I asked. "No," he replied. "He's invested $500,000 as an option to buy it later for $1 million. If he fails to pay the remaining amount, he forfeits that money. It benefits me, but I don't want him to succeed," he added. "He has the funds secured, so he is secure. The issue is he needs all 6 properties for the deal to prosper. That's why he offers more than its value." "What happens if you don't give him the option?" I questioned. "He faces significant loss," the old man chuckled. "If he doesn't acquire that plot, the entire deal collapses, and he loses everything he has invested. He has $1 million. His supporters will abandon him, leaving him stranded. I'd assist if possible," I said empathetically. "Of course," he replied, sounding somewhat resigned. "They all promise that." We shared another laugh, and I began my walk. His reference to Keystone stirred curiosity within me. The landmarks were roughly a mile apart at least, if you soared like a bird. Navigating directly, but on the mountain, it seemed more like 2 miles. Locating the first pair of markers was effortless. They were standard surveyor markers, but the third one had a unique history. It was difficult to find, buried under years of forest rubble. When I eventually found it, I noticed a small brick monument with a bronze plaque affixed to it. Beneath layers of leaves and soil, it was hidden. I took a photograph, thinking it could be interesting for a magazine. However, everything shifted then. As I moved away from the marker, my metal detector began signaling. It was faint, but it was certainly there. I put on my headphones and surveyed the nearby vicinity. After a while, I came across a compact iron box enclosed in oil-drenched canvas. Rusty yet sturdy, it had a substantial bronze lock. Typically, discoveries like this on public property are considered valuable items to be handed over to authorities. However, for some reason, this action didn't sit well with me, so I concealed the box in my bag and left the area. On my journey home, curiosity about the contents consumed me. Could it be gold coins? Civil War-era documents? The options seemed endless, only confined by the size of the container. Upon reaching home, I cleared off the kitchen table and meticulously inspected my find. I didn't wish to damage the lock, but I couldn't think of any other way in, so I reluctantly chose to cut it open with my bolt cutter. Inside the box, I found another layer of oiled canvas. Underneath it, a dozen pennies lay hidden. These weren't ordinary coins. They were large cents dating from as early as 1793. To my surprise, their condition was excellent, with no signs of green corrosion. Normally, I don't collect large cents, opting instead for Indian head pennies due to their value. Yet, a book my grandfather gave me called The Quirks of the Penny sprang to mind. It detailed various types and varieties of large cents, which I found dull because I didn't possess any of the coins it discussed. This book had been collecting dust on my shelf for almost 3 decades, but tonight it was about to prove useful. I spent hours poring over its pages under a magnifying glass until dawn. Using my scanner, I took detailed, high-resolution images of each coin. Every minor imperfection on the stamps was visible in crystal clarity, and the condition of each coin was apparent. I woke up at noon, feeling rested but keen to check on work matters. Called, informed that Phil Williams, a high-ranking executive at the company, had inquired about me, but I had more pressing matters. Thus, I chose not to dwell on it. The acquisition of the first safe deposit box from the bank was my next task. After spending numerous hours researching online, I was astounded to learn that my coins were worth multiple millions due to their age, condition, and stamp varieties. This revelation shed light on why money laundering is a common criminal activity. Converting my coins into cash wouldn't be an easy task. Over breakfast at IHOP, I noticed another article in the paper featuring Marcy and Clayton at an art gallery opening. At that moment, my next course of action became clear. Once the safe was delivered, I contacted John Smurd to postpone any decisions regarding the land for a few days. He appeared agreeable with my request. Subsequently, I dropped by the Land Trust office to ask about making a charitable donation. They were eager to help me. 4 weeks from my impending divorce, I felt a pressing need for action. The remainder of the day was devoted to examining coin dealers and auction houses, searching for any indications of complications. Eventually, I decided on Towers and Burns in New York City, as they appeared capable of managing contentious sales with discretion. I arranged an afternoon meeting with them for Monday. To complete the day, I phoned my daughters to plan a lunch gathering on Monday morning, reserving the morning hours. Upon my arrival at Towers and Burns, I was struck by their sleek, stylish showroom. After providing my name, I was guided to a less glamorous area of the building. Welcome to New York, Mr. Simmons. I've heard you have some fascinating coins to display here. This your first visit to the city? I took my seat opposite James Towers, whose face I recognized from advertisements, but who now seemed somewhat older. Thanks. Appreciate it. Your daughters attend Columbia University, hence my previous visits here were not for business purposes. I question whether there is an expert in ancient copper coins within your team. It would be advantageous to have them present. I'm flexible about this suggestion and find it promising. He activated the intercom on his desk, summoning Murray. Shortly after, Morris Cookson, author of numerous guides on large cents and half cents, walked in. Looking older than pictured, but who doesn't prefer to appear younger. I have 12 rare coins I intend to sell today. My aim is to sell 4, keeping one for your consideration. The others I will temporarily retain. If today goes smoothly, I'll also offer the remaining ones to you. If my statement sounds astonishing, it's because I am convinced that 6 of them may hold conditional census status. Mr. Cookson can verify whether my assumption is accurate or not. Given the scarcity of coins like these, I assumed you might find them intriguing. Where did you acquire these coins? James questioned. I inherited them from my grandfather upon his passing, was my response. It's not intended to question your integrity, Mr. Simmons, but the tale seems a bit difficult to accept. Could you show us what you have? I displayed 4 images on the table, each showcasing both sides of one of the coins for sale today. They were magnified around 5 times their original size and incredibly clear. James and Morris scrutinized each image for several minutes. What's your proposed price for these 4 pieces? James inquired. A cursory look at recent auctions indicates I could potentially get $1.3 million from them. Initially, I thought $1 million, but your offer isn't outside the realm of possibility. Morris has extensive knowledge about pennies, James noted. I'm prepared to pay $800,000 for the lot, but there's a condition attached. Could you elaborate on the condition? I asked. I presented you with a letter regarding the Land Trust's request for land donation and an advertisement for John Smurd Orchard. I suggested purchasing this property and donating it to the Madison Land Trust for $6,000, which would offer significant tax benefits and build goodwill. James gestured to Morris, indicating they wanted to discuss it. After a short while, Morris exited their huddle and James returned. "Do you have any coins?" he asked. I confirmed having some and mentioned wanting to retain one. Mr. Cookson then appeared with a purple crown royal bag full of nearly 100 coins, mostly gold with a scattering of silver. The estimated worth of this collection is approximately $300,000, James clarified. We've faced difficulties in selling them, but you shouldn't encounter any problems given your past experience with eBay sales, right? I nodded in affirmation. Your grandfather's coins will likely sell quickly, ensuring mutual benefit for us, James suggested with a wink. After considering the situation, I consented. I passed on the 4 pennies to Mr. Towers and finalized the deal with handshakes. Now, James urged, could you tell us about this fifth coin? Prompted by his query, I unveiled the image and characterized it as the highest-rated strawberry coin worth $1,793 that I had ever encountered. Although I rated it an 8, I mentioned my lack of expertise. Upon seeing the photo, both James and Morris expressed interest, with Morris sporting a wide grin and James' eyes sparkling. Intrigued, they inquired about its price. I countered by stating that I would consider any reasonable offer provided it includes a solution for payment. As Leticia, an exquisitely beautiful woman, entered the room, she asked if I would like some coffee, Mr. Simmons. I nodded in agreement when asked about the color choice. After leaving, James re-entered accompanied by Leticia Rothberg. "Hello, I'm Leticia Rothberg," she introduced herself. "Do you possess a passport, Mr. Simmons?" she inquired, her voice deep but feminine. "Indeed, I do," was my response. "That's good news," she replied, "as we'll soon be headed to JFK to establish an offshore bank account for you." She then asked about anything regarding Mr. Towers. I handed over a collection of 1,793 strawberry-shaped items, which visibly excited James. Thank you," he expressed before departing. No price was discussed, but Towers was eager to hold onto the small bag of coins until my return. Before I realized it, Leticia and I were aboard a plane destined for the Cayman Islands. She remained relatively quiet throughout the flight. Upon landing, photographers swarmed to capture her image, causing her to appear both annoyed and entertained by the attention. I was perplexed as to why she held such celebrity status. For the first time, I experienced flying first class, and it went by quickly. Upon our arrival at the terminal, a vibrant yellow mini SUV was ready. Swiftly, Leticia climbed into the driver's seat, showcasing her tanned legs. I found myself stealing glances, feeling somewhat awkward. She appeared to find my unease entertaining. In about 20 minutes, we reached a moderately sized condominium building. Leticia owned the entire structure, but used the upper level as her private space. "Would you like something, Mr. Simmons?" she inquired before departing. Watching her exit was equally mesmerizing as observing her at the terminal. While I'm not typically effusive about women, Leticia Rothberg was alluring. We stepped onto a compact balcony offering an ocean view. It was breathtaking, but the wind was a bit too intense for my comfort. Perhaps she intended to impress me with the opulent surroundings, yet my thoughts primarily dwelled on the fresh bank account. "You aren't much of a conversationalist, Mr. Simmons," she said. "Don't you have any inquiries?" It seemed unusual to me that someone of your standing was drinking beer from a bottle. I would have expected champagne or martinis instead. I inquired about why we had to come here to open a bank account, suggesting it's a straightforward and secure spot for your money. She replied that it would benefit you, given the 7 additional coins you possess. I conceded that it still seemed excessive. With relief, we returned indoors from the wind. "Can you manage this?" Leticia questioned unexpectedly. It turned out she had brought me here to assist her for a few days. Her unanticipated comment brought a smile to my face as I knew she was joking. She had a great sense of humor, looked stunning, and possessed wealth. What else could a man desire? If only I were 10 years younger. In response, I made a jest. Making fun of an older gentleman won't get you anywhere, and we both shared a laugh at the situation. "Come on, sir," she continued. "I brought you here to help me for a few days." "Simmons, let's step out for some fresh lobster for dinner," she proposed, and we drained our long necks before exiting. The restaurant was splendid, but the wine the waitress chose gave me discomfort. I attempted to be courteous about it, yet my unease likely showed. "What's wrong with the wine, Mr. Simmons?" she queried. "I apologize, it's just a reaction. At 18, I fell ill after drinking cheap white wine, and since then, the aroma or taste of it makes me queasy," I disclosed. "Don't fret about it. It's good wine." A short while later, we were served two more long necks. There wasn't much dialogue during the meal. At the end, we each had a slice of key lime pie and sipped on coffee. "Now, tell me about yourself. Are you married? Do you have kids? What line of work are you in?" she inquired, eager to know more about me. "We've got the entire night ahead, and I'm intrigued as to how we ended up here," she added. "That's a lot of questions," I smiled. "I have two daughters, both pursuing degrees in international banking at Columbia University, though I can't quite explain the specifics of their studies as I fund it all. As a matter of fact, I possess a master's degree from Columbia and occasionally give lectures there. By chance, I've crossed paths with my daughters," I mentioned further. "Did you run into them this morning?" she questioned. "We shared a meal together. They aren't particularly fond of me interrupting their classes for lunch," I said with a smirk. "It appears you married quite early if your daughters are in college," she commented. "Indeed, it seems like dialogue from a film," I laughed. I found comfort in this Mediterranean woman's company. We could have conversed for hours. On the other hand, my marital life is currently on hold, separated from my spouse. The term separated might sound odd to some, I conceded. She chose to leave me for a wealthy businessman. He likely deals in property ventures such as building shopping malls or commercial complexes given his extravagant car and expansive apartment. She announced she was leaving and the divorce would be completed in roughly 4 weeks, to which she empathically commented, "That seems like a feeble reason to end a solid marriage." I mused aloud. Everything seemed perfect until she encountered this man. I suppose my career choice wasn't her ideal. I had opportunities to advance, but she refused to change. Although it wasn't my preferred path, I believed compromise was necessary for our marriage. Now I feel hollow. I then inquired, "And you?" turning the focus back on her. There was a brief pause. "How do you tell a sophisticated, affluent, successful woman that you oversee a grocery store?" She perceived my discomfort and responded tactfully, saying, "It's not a major concern, or he can discuss it at a later time." I reassured her, "I'm not ashamed of my work, but managing a grocery store in a supermarket isn't typically an alluring profession that attracts women." She asked, "Do you like your job?" To which I answered, "Yes, I do, and I'm quite skilled at it." The server arrived with more coffee and cleared our table. Mrs. Simmons began, "First impressions matter a great deal to me." "And what do you think of me?" she asked. This question left me in a delicate situation. If I expressed my true thoughts, I risked alienating her. If I flattered her, it might seem insincere. So I said, "In essence, I see you as attractive, intelligent, well-educated, and confident." A hint of a smile crossed her face as she lowered her gaze and looked up at me. "I expected honesty," she confessed. "I'm afraid I let our pleasant conversation slide," I apologized. "Is it truly your belief that I hold you in such contempt?" she inquired, her voice becoming somber. "Perhaps this is why your spouse chose to leave you for another. Had you not always sought to satisfy her, your marriage might have been more robust." Her words struck a nerve, but I couldn't deny their accuracy. You manipulate men with your attractiveness and charisma to obtain what you desire. You're accustomed to having your way, and I sense a hint of self-centeredness. You flirt with men but avoid commitment. Yet, you appear shrewd when it comes to money, knowing how to spend and invest wisely. If you weren't so consumed with demonstrating equality with men, perhaps you could make a decent mother, I suggested, feeling uneasy but also somewhat annoyed by her earlier comment regarding my marriage. For a brief moment, we sat in silence, locked in each other's gaze. "Do you honestly think I would be a good mother?" she asked softly, the tension dissipating and the atmosphere becoming less tense as we navigated our way back to the condo. My night as Leticia Rothberg's alleged bedroom servant was relatively uneventful. The intimacy was scarce given our separate rooms, but that suited me fine since I hadn't anticipated anything in the first place. The following morning, a breakfast assortment of fruit, pastries, and hot coffee awaited me, accompanied by a Wall Street Journal. The wind had subsided, and I savored a peaceful moment on the balcony, overlooking the Caribbean. I could easily adapt to this lifestyle. Approximately 20 minutes later, Leticia appeared, playfully swiping part of the newspaper as she sat down. We remained quiet, engrossed in our reading and savoring our coffee, as if it were a long, established ritual. Despite having known her for less than a day, everything felt effortlessly natural with her. "I'm sorry, my phone doesn't seem to be functioning here, and I desperately need to contact my daughter," I stated. Without any pause, Leticia extended her cell phone to me. "Proceed, it's all up to you." "Hi, Dad, it's me. Where are you calling from? Everything okay?" I inquired nervously. The phone screen displayed London as my location. "I'm actually in the Cayman Islands and everything is fine. I'm just staying with a friend," she said. "I had to use her phone to call you since mine isn't working properly," Cindy explained. "Did you see me on TV last night getting onto a plane with Leticia Rothberg?" "What's that about?" I inquired. "That's the friend I told you about." "What's the fuss?" Cindy replied. "Why are you with her?" I cautioned. "Dad, be careful. Leticia Rothberg is ruthless. She's a shark," I warned her. As Leticia passed by carrying a breakfast tray from the balcony, I introduced her. "This is Cindy, my daughter. She's in New York." Hearing me mention Leticia's name, Cindy groaned over the phone, and I could hear her discussing something quickly with Sandy on the other end. Cindy inquired about your return home, peppering you with queries. Before you could speak, Leticia grabbed the phone. "Hi, Cindy, it's Leticia. Your dad told me about you and your sister. I'll be in New York tomorrow and would like to have lunch with both of you. Could you tell me where to pick you up?" It was unclear what response Cindy gave over the call. "All right, Cindy. Talk to you later." "Bye," Leticia said, returning my cell phone. "It appeared that your daughter had bid farewell. It seems we're having lunch tomorrow. I'll behave well, despite their perception of me as a shark," she chuckled, departing for her room. An hour passed, and we found ourselves at the Federal Reserve Bank of the Cayman Islands, where Leticia helped you establish your first offshore bank account. Within 20 minutes, you observed that your new account had been credited with $4 million from Towers and Burns. This seemed a reasonable price for 215 pennies. Following our dinner, she organized a friend to guide us in feeding manta rays. During the meal, I asked about her position at Towers and Burns, uncovering that she, in fact, owned 60% of the company. "Tell me more about yourself," I pressed, slightly ashamed by my limited understanding of hers. "Born and raised in London, my father is Syrian and my mother Turkish. I possess an MBA from Columbia University. In terms of relationships, I've been engaged twice, but have not been involved seriously for over 3 years. I found that men who show interest in me are seldom trustworthy." Cynicism, she described her outlook, mentioning that she often feels their intentions are not pure. "That's regrettable," I replied, feeling a flicker of empathy. I was anticipating a ride back to the condo. "Does this imply you don't trust me, you clumsy oaf?" she playfully jibed. "I apologize if I appeared insensitive. It wasn't my intention." "It's challenging for me to connect," I admitted, feeling a hint of embarrassment. "All right, let's unwind a bit." She redirected the discussion, guiding it towards less heavy matters. In the evening, we were at an upscale hotel's cocktail party. She was the focal point, receiving regal treatment from everyone. Feeling out of place in my casual New York attire, I attempted to fade into the backdrop. Initially, Leticia felt duty-bound to stay by my side, but I persuaded her to have fun and allow me to recede into the scenery where I felt more comfortable. Yet, she continued to check on me throughout the night. I conversed with a pair of Argentinian cattle ranchers, eventually discussing soccer, then fishing. Despite having little expertise in those subjects, I tried to follow along, mostly nodding and smiling. The conversation then moved to investments when Ramon Lort mentioned his interest in winter wheat. Listened carefully as he outlined his investment strategies, yet found myself questioning how someone with such apparent wealth could invest in something they appeared to know so little about. My facade of understanding slipped, exposing my bewilderment. Mr. Simmons, your expression shows you're not convinced by the winter wheat investment proposal, Ramon noted, surprising me. My effort to blend in unnoticed had backfired. I apologize, Ramon. I'm not well versed in investing, and this subject is beyond my knowledge, I conceded, using his first name to make things less formal. But I have a feeling you have some thoughts on the matter, Ramon pressed, cornering me into expressing my opinion. Feeling trapped, I managed a faint smile. I believe I need another drink, I evaded, buying more time. For an hour, I heard a produce seller from Alabama discuss in detail the prosperous winter wheat yield in Alberta and Saskatchewan compared to the poor harvest in nearby states. The discussion was intricate, leaving me hard-pressed to follow along. Just as I ran out of engaging responses, Leticia intervened, taking me away from the deep conversation. As we walked, she asked about the sudden change. What was that, Gary? We were simply talking about food and groceries, she suggested with a touch of humor, giving me a playful smile. The next day, we flew to New York, where a group of photographers greeted Letitia's landing. A messenger from Towers and Burns delivered a package containing the coins I had forgotten. After saying goodbye to Leticia, I went to the train station in Huntsville. The divorce process and house sale progressed as anticipated. Repeated messages from Phil Williams at the main office urged me to consider relocating to the company's New York headquarters, which this time I agreed to do. John Smyad also contacted me, scheduling a lunch meeting. At work, I organized my belongings in my locker and bid farewell to my colleagues as I prepared for my upcoming move. A photo in the newspaper caught my attention, showing Clayton and Marcy at a local politician's barbecue, looking every inch the perfect couple. With only 3 weeks left, I spent an entire day sorting through the coins from the bag I brought back from New York, determined to maximize their worth before listing them on eBay as soon as possible. As long as I avoided any unsavory characters, everything should be all right. It took a whole day to prepare and post the coin ads online, along with all the envelopes and labels needed for shipping. Money flowed into my PayPal account and subsequently moved to my offshore bank. The weekend offered me some leisure time. My lunch with John Smyad was eventful. He appeared delighted that Clayton joined in, yet expressed displeasure over my lack of personal gains from the transaction. Discussing it would have been challenging. Our conversation flowed well, and as he left, he gave me deeds to 5 acres of land at the town's outskirts. It seems good actions get compensated. Shortly after bidding farewell to John, my phone buzzed. Cindy and Sandy were due to arrive in Nashville within a couple of hours, giving me ample time for pickup. They chose Nashville because airfare was more affordable than flying into Huntsville, and they were watching their budget. Reaching there and collecting them was effortless. Cindy was eager to chat about LSH. 300 students filled a lecture hall for an advanced corporate finance class, where the professor momentarily halted to introduce Leticia. Confidently walking into the room, it seemed as if she claimed ownership. After speaking to the class for approximately 10 minutes, she invited 2 students to lunch at the Western Hotel. As we left, I questioned the others about their impression of her. "She's amazing, Dad. How did you even meet her?" Cindy exclaimed in disbelief. Apparently, she was looking for a personal assistant, and I apparently fit the role, I answered, receiving a nudge from Sandy. "That's not funny, Dad. Be serious," she admonished. "So, what did you both discuss during lunch?" I asked, redirecting the conversation. "Oh, she seemed interested in our courses and schoolwork," Sandy replied with a light laugh. Cindy remarked, subtly smirking, "She seems to have many questions about you." Adding on, she said, "It appears she's interested in more than just friendship." Sandy contemplated, "But why you, Dad? With so many options available, she could choose anyone." Cindy responded thoughtfully, "Consider it. From our perspective, you're quite appealing. Yet, Leticia Rothberg is unaware of your true nature. Remember, even Mom didn't fully know you. Changing the tone, Cindy continued, Our mother is indeed a treasure, and I shouldn't have said that. Comfortingly, she added, We understand more than you might think. A brief silence ensued until we crossed into Alabama, whereupon Siz's phone rang. Hello, yes, we arrived around an hour ago. Everything's fine, was his response. Impossible, that's fantastic news, exclaimed the caller. Sandy said, I'll share it with you, to which I replied, Thanks for the update. Talk to you later. As Sandy ended the call with a smile, I noticed her giving Cindy a thumbs up in the rearview mirror. What's that about? I questioned, intrigued. Leaning over the front seat, Sandy revealed, Leticia is traveling to Huntsville Tuesday morning. She thinks you should cover her accommodation for the night and serve breakfast in bed, she announced excitedly. The news flattered me, but I also felt the combined pressure from Leticia and my daughters. It all sounded appealing, and I hoped I was ready for the task, not just for this instance. The weekend with the girls went well. They spent Saturday afternoon with their mother, but Clayton didn't show up. I asked them to keep their mother informed about Leticia. We sorted through all the items they wished to leave at the house, and by the time they left, everything was organized. I made a pledge. While returning to Nashville, they urged me to make amends with Leticia. I inquired about their advice, and Cindy added, Just avoid irritating her. It's straightforward. They were excited about my town move, yet I remained puzzled regarding Leticia's intentions towards an elderly man who lacked an Armani suit. At home, I relaxed with a beer and the Sunday paper. No photos of Marcy and Clayton this week, but there was news about Keystone Development encountering trouble with local funding. Winter wheat futures were decreasing in value, catching my attention. I phoned Terry Davis and invited him over. It wasn't an extravagant lunch, but a couple of cold drinks and conversation would suffice. Clayton Manning had a questionable past. He went through cycles of wealth and debt, evading creditors and friends who lent him money. His recent project was failing, and those backing him were mysteriously disappearing. Beer has never tasted sweeter than it did today. Monday morning was a pleasant surprise. The coins I auctioned exceeded my expectations, fetching around $300,000 according to the appraiser. I wasn't certain they would reach such a high price, but they easily managed over $200,000. In slightly more than 2 weeks, I'll be free. 3 months ago, I might have considered this a nightmare, but today I eagerly look forward to it. The buyers of the house have arranged their financing and are ready to close the deal. It's amusing how at ease Marcy seems with Clayton, not needing any of our shared items. I wonder if she realizes how uncertain her future is. Today, I met with the new homeowners who deposited a $200,000 check into my offshore account, allowing me to stay in the house for another week. It was mutually beneficial. The following day, I received a call before finishing my morning coffee. An anonymous caller announced that Miss Rothberg would be arriving at 10:45 am on Delta flight. Arriving half an hour early, I felt slightly nervous. It appeared the paparazzi had learned of her visit. Competitors were stationed outside the terminal, waiting for her arrival. I made efforts to keep a low profile. I chose short-term parking, unaware of the commotion that would ensue. Instead of me retrieving her, she decided to walk beside me behind my car. Consequently, the photographers spotted my license plate, revealing our location. Despite being accustomed to tranquility, Leticia seemed unperturbed by the situation. She even expressed apologies for it. On our journey home, I couldn't help but remember the instant I desired to kiss her upon her arrival from the plane. Silly old man. I felt embarrassed by the lack of clutter in my house. Over the previous months, I had discarded as much as possible. After relinquishing only necessary items for the incoming owner, my guest found humor in my apologetic attempts. The house was completely devoid of food, so he stopped by Taco Bell for a meal as she preferred. I had promised her Dreamland ribs for dinner later. It was invigorating to be with a woman who had a robust appetite. Leticia, I admitted, somewhat bewildered, I'm pleased you're here, but I don't quite understand why. This is business, my dear, she chuckled back. I learned you're departing for New York next week. You'll need a place to stay, and I happen to have an extra room. I came to assist you with packing. A moving truck will arrive tomorrow morning to transport anything you can't fit in the car. Kindly avoid furniture. How did you discover I was relocating? I inquired, genuinely taken aback. That's just what I do, she replied offhandedly. I notice minor details, and larger ones tend to fall into place naturally. That sounds dubious, I joked, aiming for a light-hearted tone. Are you maybe involved with my daughters somehow? I tried to flash an innocent smile, but let's face it, it's challenging for someone like me to appear sly. Her proposal took me by surprise, yet I found no valid reason to refuse. All right then, let's get some boxes and start packing, I consented. I had envisioned her preferring a swanky boardroom or elegant bank, but she seemed quite content chatting with me. Nevertheless, the age gap persisted as an undercurrent. Surprisingly, we discarded more items than we kept while sorting through my possessions. She was firm about my closet matters, unfazed by my entreaties for leniency. She promised to take me shopping for suitable clothes once I arrived in New York. After packing, there were more boxes than could fit in my car, yet not enough for a moving van. I had anticipated she might secure a compact truck. I put aside my laptop and a modest inkjet printer to check on an eBay bid. As we were preparing for dinner, another unexpected occurrence took place. A delivery van parked in front of our house. Leticia and I watched as the well-dressed driver stepped out with a clipboard asking, "Are you Gary?" "Simmons," he continued. "I've got a delivery for you." "Where do you want it?" Intrigued, I questioned. "What on earth is this?" The delivery man responded, "It's from Mr. Ramon Yort." Confused, I pointed towards the space where Marcy's Volvo once stood and nodded. Leticia struggled to suppress her laughter as she covered her mouth. 5 minutes later, I found myself gazing at a sleek orange sports car parked next to my old Volvo. With a mix of astonishment and pride, I exclaimed, "What the devil is this?" The courier announced, "This here's a 2008 Lamborghini Gallardo Spider Superleggera model." What a sight! Leticia struggled to suppress her laughter. She wasn't causing a fuss, but it was evident she was greatly amused. After confirming the delivery, I watched as the courier departed in his elaborate attire. I wasn't certain what I would do with my new present, but one thing was clear: I wasn't hauling it to New York myself. This laughter-filled lady could keep her fancy vehicle. As we drove away, she maintained a wide grin on her face. I arranged for a full rack of ribs and a couple of beers. "Might as well tell me about the car deal?" I inquired, curious. Ramon made a large investment in winter wheat. Everyone thought he was crazy as prices began to fall, but he increased his contracts, and within less than a week he earned over $40 million, she detailed. He was content with the money, but the praise for his shrewd move made him even happier. "Well, good for Ramon. I hope he didn't mention my name," I commented. "It appeared he intended to acknowledge your contribution, but only if you were comfortable with it. He expressed gratitude for my introduction of you at the gathering and sought your contact details. I hadn't anticipated this action, though." As the ribs were served, Leticia dipped some into Tabasco sauce before eating them. "I really like that girl," she commented. "Yes, I'll return this tomorrow as promised," I replied. That was my assumption. There would be no offense taken by Ramon in this regard. He likely thought you might refuse the offer directly and instead wanted to create a sense of obligation for you to accept it. Since we had additional Tabasco, more beer was ordered. The evening was pleasant, and I wished I could prolong it with your presence. I admired those effortless, charismatic men who could effortlessly charm any woman in such a short span. All I could aspire for was a goodnight kiss. As the conversation came to an end, I reluctantly had to leave. The following morning was delightful. Unexpectedly, all my concerns proved unwarranted. Upon entering the house, Leticia took my hand and guided me to the bedroom. Given my polite upbringing, I saw it fitting to attend to her before myself. This act was richly rewarded with a passionate night, one I would forever cherish in my solitary existence. A modest breakfast followed juice, coffee, and Danish. "I'm sorry if it seems meager. The circumstances are constraining," I apologized. "It's wonderful," she reassured. although eating from a tray in bed lacked the comfort one might expect. Following a brief bout of laughter and some adjustments, we moved to the kitchen. Breakfast in bed sounds more elegant than it truly is, Leticia, I joked. I don't wish to disrupt the atmosphere, but I'm intrigued by your choice. I can't say I have much to offer, and you deserve a remarkable partner. I've had my share of deceitful, charismatic lovers. Rest assured, I won't repeat the same mistake, she clarified. I see. You find me appealing because I'm not a playboy or a brute, I summarized, and she found this amusing, laughing gently. Gary, I was impressed with your business transaction with James in New York, she stated. Well, I just closed a deal on some old coins. Nothing significant, I replied casually. She continued, I found your scheme to acquire trust land intriguing. I chuckled. A philanthropist? No way. In my mind, I'm more of a shrewd man who used an unusual opportunity to antagonize his wife's lover, I hinted with a smile. She laughed, and so did I, recognizing each other's intelligence. Was that a smart move on your part? She asked. No, it was genius, I asserted. Her interest in me grew, and she expressed her desire to learn more. More? There's no way you could have guessed what I was doing in New York, I defended. True, but I found out later, she confessed. You were spying on me, weren't you? I realized. I may not be naive. The increase in self-confidence felt satisfying. Unfortunately, Leticia had an early flight back to New York. Bid farewell proved challenging, yet she departed me with a sense of satisfaction and bestowed upon me the access key to her flat. The automobile dealer couldn't retrieve the Lamborghini until the subsequent day, which was acceptable as I had no desire to drive it. A small truck hauled by movers arrived to cart my possessions to New York. Terry Davis phoned with disquieting updates regarding Keystone Development's financial predicament. Clayton had largely lost his supporters within a short time frame, and whispers circulated about misappropriated funds. That night, my soon-to-be ex-spouse made an unanticipated visit. What brings you here so unexpectedly? I asked. I need to discuss some matters with you, she replied. I'll be gone in a few days, but I'll assist you as needed. Upon observing the absence of my previous Volvo, Marcy inquired about the orange car parked in the garage. Forgive me, Marcy. I sold the Volvo back to the dealer after you expressed disinterest. As for the orange car, it was a gift, but I intended to keep it. Return it tomorrow, I clarified. Marcy found the gesture of affection puzzling, questioning the origin of the expensive gift. She wondered if it was from my new girlfriend. Actually, it was a token of gratitude from a cattle rancher I assisted, I clarified. As our discussion moved along, Marcy hesitated before querying about the funds from the house sale. It's been spent, I acknowledged. Since you indicated you didn't want anything, I utilized the money to arrange my new apartment for relocation. Marcy appeared perplexed, but accepted the explanation. When asked about my location, I disclosed my impending move to New York for a new job and a substantial increase in salary. However, I opted against revealing my intention to live with Leticia. I had no intentions of discussing the Cayman bank account either. You never told me what became of the apartment, she asked. It was only rented, the lease terminated, and the landlord didn't want to extend it, I clarified. Then, where are you staying now? She inquired again. I told her we'd be temporarily staying at the Holiday Inn until Clayton finds us another place, I shared. Ah, that makes sense now, she replied, picking up on Marcy's reason for wanting to relocate to our old home. She seemed a bit perplexed. I understand, she said, appearing indecisive. It was clear she needed help, yet was hesitant to ask. The conversation paused briefly before I offered, Is there anything else I can do for you? Marcy hesitated before asking, Would you mind taking me to the Holiday Inn? The journey went well initially, but then she brought up my companion. Tell me about her, she inquired. She's not so much a girlfriend, more like a business associate, I clarified. What line of work are you in together? She queried. To be honest, we don't have any business. I simply work as a clerk at the grocery store, I disclosed. Marcy fell silent, gazing out the window and murmured, scoundrel, softly to herself. That instant presented an ideal opportunity for me to vocalize my displeasure, making her aware of the pain those newspaper photographs caused me. Yet, I opted for silence and smiled inside instead. Witnessing Marcy in distress stirred a fleeting sensation of guilt within me, but it faded promptly. As I left her at the motel entrance, she walked away without a backward look or farewell. A hint of regret tugged at me, yet there was also an odd feeling of fulfillment. On Thursday, an unexpected package arrived, my divorce papers. They came earlier than anticipated, but I held no complaints. On the front page of the Huntsville paper, there was Leticia Rothberg's photograph, stepping off the plane with her sincere companion. Each Holiday Inn guest received a free newspaper, so Marcy would surely find it during breakfast. I prepared my safety deposit box at the bank for relocation, as my 7 pennies would soon be useful. During her stay, I assumed she'd question them, but she never did. Instead, our conversations were solely social. Now, I'm broaching the subject of auction prices. Over half the coins were sold at that price, so I spent the rest of the day preparing and packaging them for shipping, as the auctions had to close by Friday noon. If all PayPal transactions proceed without hitch, I can mail out the coins on the same day, with doubtful buyers having to wait till Monday. On Saturday morning, I embarked on my journey. The majority of my PayPal funds were moved to my Cayman account. I kept a minimal amount in PayPal for potential impulse purchases. As I left, the new homeowners arrived, making it mutually beneficial for both parties. The journey north would take approximately 12 hours without traffic. Upon return, Leticia was in the apartment and had promised to prepare a homemade dinner. Who would prepare the meal was uncertain. Yet, it was comforting to realize that my abilities were still sufficient to win over such an attractive woman. I had faith in meeting all her demands. As I approached Virginia on Interstate 81, Cindy phoned. It seemed Clayton Manning had fled, leaving Marcy without a vehicle, lodging, funds, and a substantial hotel bill. Upon asking Cindy for advice, she laughed and suggested, "Just smile.